This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with Cristiana Tiberio, who's joining us all the way from Abruzzo, Italy. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Now, we have just been tasting through your wines, and they have been tasting rather spectacular today. And there's a fascinating story about your winery and the vines within it. Would you mind giving us a brief history of your winery?
Yes, sure. It's a pretty deep history, very intense history. I try to express with my wines because actually my father found at the end of the 90s in the Abruzzo area, mountain area of Abruzzo, an old abandoned vineyard of authentic Trebbiano Abruzzese variety. The Trebbiano Abruzzese is a variety very rare to find because the most planted Trebbiano in the Abruzzo vineyard is Trebbiano Toscano and not Trebbiano Abruzzese anymore. So when he found this vineyard, we, all the family, decided to buy the vineyard to save this vineyard. And this purchase changed the rest of our life. I'm the winemaker now of the winery. My brother is the viticulturalist, and my father just enjoyed the vineyard now. When we started in 1999, it took us 7 years to rebalance this vineyard. This vineyard was seriously abandoned, so didn't produce grape anymore. And we start pruning this vineyard, we restart pruning this vineyard very gently in order to rebalance the vineyard. And this vineyard has a very fragile and delicate balance because super old vines, more than 80 years old, ungrafted vines. So it was a very delicate work, was a passion for us, was my main occupation for 7 years.
7 years to get it back into shape and bring it back to life.
Exactly, just challenging. Because we didn't know if this vineyard would be able to relive.
Right.
At the end, the vineyard relived, and we make with these vines, I can say, a great wine. I'm very proud to make today the Fonte Canale, because when we started, everybody told me I was crazy, spending so much work, so much time, so much money in this vineyard, in the Trebbiano d'Abruzzo denomination. Now the same people are asking me for branches because this wine became a very successful wine, able to express the original flavors of the variety.
How do you find this particular Massao clone compares to the modern clones of Trebbiano d'Abruzzo?
Okay, the Trebbiano Abruzzese is a super elegant grape, super fragile grape, delicate flavors, so needs a lot of shade. That's the reason why the canopy, usually the Pergola Abruzzese, is the most suitable training system. High acidity, super delicate flavors. For example, the Trebbiano Toscano accumulates sugar easily, is more rich in sugar content and then in alcohol content. The Trebbiano Abruzzese has a very low but well-balanced alcohol content. The flavors are more fresh, more crisp, more elegant. The Trebbiano Toscano is more rich, full-bodied wine. The Trebbiano Abruzzese, the meaning of the Trebbiano Abruzzese is the elegance, a super refined wine.
An interesting thing is most people, when they think of Trebbiano d'Abruzzo, they think that the wine is all Trebbiano d'Abruzzo, but that is not actually the case, is it?
No, absolutely. Trebbiano d'Abruzzo is just the name of the wine. It's not the name of the grape. There is no grape called Trebbiano d'Abruzzo.
I had to correct myself there.
Everybody calls, even wine growers in Abruzzo, they say Trebbiano d'Abruzzo grape, and is incorrect. But the point is, according to the DOC and the DOP Trebbiano d'Abruzzo wine, you can use a blend of all the Trebbiano's variety to make this wine. And in Italy we have more than 10 different Trebbiano's grape. Any one is different, completely different DNA, different wines. So when you drink 10 different Trebbiano d'Abruzzo wines, you are drinking 10 different grapes. That's the reason why it's very difficult to have an idea of the characteristic flavors of the variety, because it's always a blend.
We were just tasting your Pecorino. Pecorino is another one of the native varietals that you make wine from on your estate. And you were telling me a fascinating story about the challenges of growing Pecorino and making wine from it in your region.
Yeah, when I found this vineyard of Trebbiano Abruzzese, I found blended in this vineyard other varieties. Making DNA taste, I discovered these different varieties and I took away. But before taking away, I was able to propagate these vines of Pecorino, of the original clone, the historical clone. And in the historical clone, the Pecorino suffers sterility, so the first bud doesn't produce grapes, the yield per hectare is very low, and this genetic aspect is well expressed by the wine, because the Pecorino wine is always a balance between the richness coming from the low yield and so high alcohol content. Even when you drink the Pecorino, you don't taste the alcohol. You cannot taste the alcohol because of the minerality of the wine. Super rich in acidity, minerality, so it's a super beautiful balanced wine. And this is true for the historical muscle clone, for the original, authentic Pecorino clones, where you can taste the most characteristic flavors of the variety. The characteristic flavors of the true Pecorino are herbal flavors, flavors of sage, rosemary, green fig, lemongrass, not exotic flavors coming from the modern clones, but herbal flavors. Especially recently with the global warming, the concentration of the sugar is even higher, yes. So working with indigenous yeast is very difficult but possible. And in order to save the freshness of the variety, we not just avoid to pick up leaves, but we avoid any kind of stream. We don't cut branches. In this way the branches fall down and they provide extra shade to the clusters. In this way we can save a little bit the high sugar content. And we can help a little bit the work of the indigenous yeast. The work of this indigenous yeast is very hard, having high content sugar and high content of glycerin. The Pecorino wine is a wine super vibrant, dynamic, but even rich and smooth because of this glycerin. The indigenous yeast are not happy about that, but the palate is very happy. So
now, speaking of indigenous yeasts, you were telling me that you don't actually create a Pierre de Cuve because you feel that takes a little something away from what the vintage is trying to tell you.
Yeah, in my opinion, I prefer to avoid the Pied de Cuve. I prefer to wait for the natural, spontaneous beginning of the fermentation. In this way, the beginning of the fermentation is smoother, not so vigorous, and all the rest of the fermentation is more, it's longer. It's more balanced, in my opinion, in terms of extraction. The Pied de Cuve, for my experience, extract too much. So I prefer to work with this first population of yeast that it's more related to the vintage, so more able to express the characteristic of the vintage in terms of richness in a hot vintage, or in terms of crispiness and freshness in terms of cooler vintage.